Okay, I think I'm live now. This week, talking about can PTAs and OTAs transition into healthcare quality? Super excited to be talking with you all today. All right, so we'll dive right in just a moment. I'm gonna pull something on my screen too, because I'll be reading some things to you all today. Hi, Julie. So good to see you on here. All right, so today we're going to talk about can assistants, physical therapist assistants, and occupational therapy assistants, can they transition into healthcare quality? I think this is a common question because a lot of the roles that are posted say they want a registered nurse, or even if they do say they want a therapist, they want a DPT, or they want someone with a master's degree. But there are so many roles under the healthcare quality umbrella that are perfect fits for physical therapist assistants and occupational therapy assistants. So I'm going to share some of them with you today. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to type in the chat or let me know, and I will do my best to answer them. So one thing I will say first is it does depend on the company. Like every company is not going to prefer or want every type of allied health professional, and that's okay, because if they can't really see your value, then that's probably not a company that you want to work for anyway. But there are lots of companies and lots of roles that are perfect fits that still allow you to work in healthcare using your clinical degree, clinical expertise, and just not at the bedside. And so I'm going to share some of those with you. And I'm going to pull it up on my screen. So I'm going to read a little bit too. Let's see if I can manage a split view today. Okay. So one role that is really, really fitting for a PTA or OTA is a patient experience champion. And a patient experience champion or patient experience manager is really a patient advocate, and they help to literally manage the patient experience. So when the patient is having difficulties or troubles, they're the one who's going in to figure out what the problem is, what the issue is, and working with the team to resolve that while the patient is still on site at the hospital. So that is a hospital, a lot of times is a hospital type role, working with interdisciplinary teams, still interacting and patient facing. A patient experience champion or manager or consultant can also work for those companies that supply the surveys for the hospitals or for the clinics, right? So your Press Gainies, your NRC, those type companies have people or people who work there who whose role is to work with the client, the customer, that's the hospital, that's the outpatient clinic, that's the group of physician practices, whoever it is, that person helps them to make the improvement. So maybe they'll go on site to work with the team, to observe their processes and their flows and give them ideas to make changes, or maybe they'll help to process all of that patient experience and patient survey data and then provide it back to the hospital or the other organization in order for them to make the changes. So you can work on either side. You can work on the patient-facing side, or you can work for the company that does the surveys for these hospitals and healthcare organizations. So one role, one position that is very good for a PTA or OTA is patient experience champion. All right, another position that is really good for a PTA or OTA is an outcomes coordinator. So this position can be in an inpatient rehab facility, it can be in a skilled nursing facility, it can be at a hospital, can be outpatient clinic, But essentially outcomes coordinator. And let me back up by saying this role can be called lots of different things at different companies, but essentially is doing similar work. So the outcomes coordinator reviews functional outcomes data, most of the time functional outcomes data. Now it could be wound data, it could be infection control data, but a lot of times it's functional outcomes data to ensure compliance with regulatory agencies, to make sure things are being properly reported, to make sure the patient is making progress throughout their stay, wherever that stay is along the healthcare continuum. So this position would work with data, would work with written and visual reports, would have to communicate with members of the interdisciplinary team, including members of the senior team or executive team, to be able to share how this data is looking, because a lot of this data is publicly reported. And so someone in this role would need to have a strong affinity for data analysis, problem-solving skills, be proficient with potentially Microsoft Office or other computer-based software. You have a really keen attention to detail, because what you report out externally matters. This role can be on-site, can be hybrid, can be remote, depending on the company that you work for. But this is another role that would be perfect for PTAs and OTAs. All right, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to put them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them. So for those who jumped on a little bit later, we are talking about if PTAs and OTAs can transition into healthcare quality. And the answer is 100% yes. It does depend on the company, but there are many roles that are available, and I'm going over a few today. The first one that we talked about was the patient experience champion or specialist or manager or consultant. Can be called different things in different places, and that particular role can be patient facing or work on the survey provider side. The second one that we talked about was an outcomes coordinator, and this is heavily data driven, but also working with the interdisciplinary team. Not so much working with the patient, but still affecting patient safety by the information that you're gathering and the information that you are reporting externally. It helps save the hospital money. It helps make sure the patients are receiving proper care. And then another role that may be good for PTAs and OTAs is like a performance improvement, a process improvement specialist. So this position is responsible for improving clinical care and patient outcomes. They work with interdisciplinary team to improve clinical processes to make sure the patient is being kept safe. So this role is a facilitator type role where you have influence over other departments, but they may or may not report directly to you. A lot of times this is a position that has to lead by influence, has to have a little finesse to your role and to your personality in order to be able to get buy-in from the other teams who also have conflicting priorities as well. The performance or process improvement specialist also presents relevant information to internal and external stakeholders, educates the team, makes sure that the team is actually making progress for patient safety. So you do have some data analysis parts to this role, but it's probably less data heavy than the outcomes coordinator position. You do have to facilitate and lead cross-functional teams and be able to have effective time management skills, project management skills. Do you have to be certified in project management? No, but a good project management course may be beneficial to help understand the different tools that are available to you to help your colleagues who are going through the process improvement steps. And then a good knowledge of the healthcare system and how it works together is also helpful. All right, so the fourth position, and the last one that I'll talk about today, unless there's any questions out there, is a population health. So this position can be, it's called a population health coordinator, but you can also kind of tie it into diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. But a population health coordinator oversees the care management services for medically or socioeconomically complex patients. They collaborate with the interdisciplinary team. They work closely with the patient to help provide and steer the patient towards appropriate resources for them, help decrease health disparities, and really make sure that patients have access to the care that they need. So for this position, you really need compassion, a commitment to the patient's well-being as a person, as a human, right? You have to be able to navigate resources inside and outside of your organization to be able to help meet that need for the patient. You need to be able to have knowledge of and be able to navigate the medical record so that you can provide timely, appropriate feedback to the patient based on their own specific needs. And then usually experience with care management is preferred. But if you've worked in healthcare as a PTA or OTA, then you have experience with care management already, with discharge planning and things like that. So you do have those skills. Could you take another course? Could you get more experience? Yes. But a lot of the skills that you already have are transferable. Now, this role can be hybrid or remote, but you may have some travel to meet with the patient and to really get to know the patient too, because again, you're an advocate for the patient in this role. So you'll need some problem solving, you'll need to be creative and resourceful, and you need to be really compassionate and committed to the patient. All right, so I will stop there for now to see what questions people have, if you all have any questions about some roles that PTA and COTAs can have when transitioning into healthcare quality. Oh, thank you, Raji. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so if you all know of any PTAs or COTAs who are interested in healthcare quality, then definitely send them to this video. I know LinkedIn records it and it is available after I stop recording. So it'll still be available to anyone who wants to see it. I'm happy to answer questions as well. If you have questions or if you know someone who's trying to transition into healthcare quality. And with no questions, I think I will sign off for tonight. I hope everyone has a great week, and here's to a great month of May.